What's up, guys? Welcome back. Today I want to do something a little bit different, something that I don't think happens enough. A lot of YouTubers, they tend to go into really in-depth reviews on gear, and although that's really cool, and it can lead to making people better, I think what's really missed is the study of our own work and the study of the photography that we do in the same in-depth way that we study gear and things that are technically going to make us better. I don't talk about it much on this channel, but I'm a pretty avid film photographer. I do all my shooting and printing and scanning, developing all right here in house, and then I get the loop out and I study each of the negatives right here. I study composition and light and what works and what doesn't work, and that's really led me to become a better digital photographer. So what I want to do is I want to show my process of how I do my digital study and how I think it makes me a better photographer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go downstairs and I'm going to print off a contact sheet, kind of like they do with the old film days. And I'm going to study each individual picture with you guys, and I'll throw them up on the screen as I study them here in person. Talk about what works, what doesn't work, what light works, composition, techniques, settings, things like that. Hopefully by the end of it, you'll take something away. And if it's nothing else, it'll let you guys see how I analyze and really become a student of my own photography. So without further ado, let's head downstairs and print this contact sheet. All right, guys, I'm gonna stress it one more time, the importance of printing your work. You gotta print your work, guys. It doesn't have to be massive or intense. Just go get a nice home printer, and if you got an image you really like, print it out. Really study it under what it looks like printed. The colors are gonna be different, the shadows, the highlights, all of that is different, and like I said, ultimately the goal is to have a beautiful printed image. So once this is done, we'll run it upstairs, and we'll get after the critique and the dissection of each of these photos. What's going on, guys? So now that we got the print laid out in front of us, yeah, we're just going to dive into it. We're going to start talking about these images. As I look through them here, I'm going to throw them up on the screen, so you'll just hear me commentating. I'm kind of just going to be thinking out loud, if that makes sense. So you're just going to be kind of sitting on an in-depth process and how I think about the images after I take them. So first and foremost, we have this beautiful bald eagle. So this eagle is actually one of my top 5 favorite shots I've ever taken. It's so powerful to me because it's just different. It's different than most of the eagle shots you see. What I was doing when I was here is I was thinking about getting as low as possible to the ground to create that separation between the subject and the background. And since I was along this really large gravel beach, it just blew out the background completely. So people always talk about getting low, and this is kind of the idea behind why you want to get low. You're creating that separation between the subject and the background as much as possible. The tones were cool. It was a cold day, so I kind of blued up the image a little bit. Like I said, giving it that blue tonal feel. The shadows were good. I exposed just for the overall scene using a meter. And yeah, that's really not too much else to say about it. It's just a cool image. It's got the nictating membrane over the eye, so it kind of gives it that zombie feel. What's going on in the image is another eagle is trying to swoop down on this guy's fresh halibut, so he's barking at the sky to keep this eagle away. Overall, really powerful image in my opinion, and big takeaway there is getting low and creating that subject separation. All right, so next up we have this beautiful bison, this big, large bison male. Woods bison. Here what I want to talk about along with getting low is almost balancing out the composition. So you got this really powerful bison on the left side of the frame. And without that tree on the right side balancing the composition, it would feel really left heavy, right? And I'd have to do a crop to kind of give it that balanced feel. So what I want to talk about here is just trying to find something to balance out the composition. If it's going to be a heavy weighted to the left frame, try to put something in there if you can, a tree or, a mountain scene or anything you got to kind of balance out that frame. Tone-wise, same thing, cool day, wanted to keep the sun warm, but I also wanted to make it feel as cold as it really was, so blued it up a little bit. That's really all I have to say about that one. Moving on to the next one, we have the boss right here, man. This is my actual #1 selling print. I don't know why. When I took it, I thought it was a cool image, but people have really resonated with it, and it tends to be my highest selling image. It's straightforward. I exposed for the white on his ruff right there, his snow-covered beard almost, and I just let the shadows fall off where they would. The framing idea here was just to really isolate his face, bringing the power of that whole animal into frame. And the hard part there was getting that background separation, being that close, but also being able to keep his whole face in focus. So I think I shot this with a 400 2.8, and it might have been at 2.8 or 3.5 or something like that. Looking back, I screwed up. Should have been at least at f5.6, but you live and you learn. Still turned out good. I used high pass to kind of straighten his eyes out and bring him into focus a little bit more. But happy accident, I guess. Moving on. Next, we have this beautiful cow moose. Oh man, I don't know what it is about cow moose, but I feel like some of the most pretty animals in the animal kingdom. What I was working on here was trying to get that Rembrandt lighting, right? I wanted the subject to be illuminated by one side and one side only, with the light falling off on the other side of the face. I know normally you're looking to get that triangle on the far light, but obviously because of the way the moose's face is set up, that's never going to happen. So I just was really trying to get that Rembrandt light, that highlight, rim light along the face, and then just letting the shadows fall off. Getting the catch light in the eye wasn't as important to me because the focus here for me was just that really dramatic side Rembrandt lighting. Really just want to point out how key lighting is there. I could have walked around to her right side and got that image, but to me, I don't think it would have been as dramatic as getting those deep dark shadows on the not illuminated side of her face. But that's really it there. Framing was pretty straightforward. Just wanted to get that quartering shot and let the light do all the work for me. All right, next up we have this big, beautiful bull moose from a few months back. This is just post-rut, so he's laying down, relaxing, trying to recover. I'm sure it was a long few weeks for him. But what I like about this image is I'm trying to capture the peacefulness of post-rut, where everything is kind of settled down, the snow's starting to fall, and the temperatures have gone down. And I'm just trying to frame him right heavy because of how large his rack is, and really just show kind of the peace that follows the rut, like I said. Hard thing here is exposing for the white. As you can see in this photo, that I kind of got the 18% gray thing going on here. I didn't expose properly. I think it's 1 or 2 stops underexposed. It could have used a little bit more ISO. But like I said, you live and you learn. I'm not unhappy with the image, but it could have definitely been better. Big takeaway here is just making sure you're exposing properly. Hard thing is with the white snow and the dark moose and then those like mid-tan paddles on his head, getting the proper exposure all the way through was tough, but it's okay. I don't hate it, but I do like the essence that comes with this image. All right, moving on to one more moose photo is, oh man, this is 100% luck. I wanted to show this to you guys because sometimes it's better to be lucky than it is good. These images are so hard to capture because it has to be an incredibly dark background with a beautiful light. Like it can't be a harsh midday sun because you're going to end up blowing it out and still not getting that really deep dark shadow behind them like you do on portrait photos. But this was just luck. I exposed completely for the background, which gave me that black backdrop, and then that beautiful warm evening sun illuminated this cow moose, and it just kind of gave me this really pretty fall-off highlight along her face. I got lucky, but key takeaway there was exposing properly for the background and allowing the fall-off of light on her face as she emerged from the darkness into the light. This was a timed photo. Big thing here is you can't rush it. You got to wait for them to step out into that light, and your settings have to be ready to take it the second it's there. Moving on, we have this beautiful cow moose again in evening light. Kind of see a trend here, I guess. Same concept with the bison. Big thing I was trying to do here was balance out the frame. Now, I could have taken 1 or 2 steps to the left, and she would have been the only thing in the frame. But after looking at both of the 2 images, I really believe that little snowy tree there on the right side of the frame really laid out a balance and equalized what we got going on in the entire frame. Snow was a little bit better properly exposed, and you're still getting that side lighting, almost that Rembrandt lighting we saw earlier. But overall, warmer tones and pretty straightforward composition. Just like I said, working on getting that balance on the right to the left side. Moving on, what I want to talk about here is sometimes behavior is better than any light you're going to get. So this image is also incredibly high selling for me. And you can kind of see why. It just shows the connection between a cow moose and her calf. This calf couldn't have been more than a few weeks old, maybe a month or 2 at most. And what had happened in this frame is the calf had ventured too far away from the cow before she turned around and realized that mama was no longer right behind her. So the calf set out this kind of squeal to kind of let the mom know she was uncomfortable. And then they both ran to embrace each other. And this was the exact moment that they embraced each other. And I was just there. I was standing there. I captured it, and it tells the story. You can absolutely see the love between these 2 animals, and having that captured in a frame is better than most lighting could be. Moving on into this minimalism thing we got going on with this ptarmigan. This ptarmigan was right there in transition season last spring, as the plumage is starting to move to that deep dark brown from the all-white winter. I love this image because you kind of got that high-key minimalism. Key thing here was exposing properly for the white of the snow and letting the browns, do what they want, and then recovering them in post. So I exposed properly for the snow to get that bright white snow, and then that led to the bird being a little bit overexposed, maybe by a third, 2/3 of a stop, and then recovering that lost detail in post. Key takeaway there is exposing properly for the snow and then fixing the subject in post, in my opinion. But it's always fun to play with those high key images, do something a little bit different, really isolate your subject. Moving on to this caribou. Same concept with that moose coming out of the shadows into the light. I exposed here. I tried to properly expose for the deep dark shadows and just let that warm sunlight do what it was going to do with the white fur of the caribou. It kind of led to this really nice soft light all the way through. You got the catch light in the eye, which is always important in wildlife photography. But it's not a awesome frame. It's just the lighting is what makes it so good. And we're always talking about that nice evening or morning sun. This is kind of what you get with that low angle sun. Takeaway there, it's the same as just exposing for the background in a situation like this and allowing that nice fall off of light with the dramatic shadows. And moving on, there's one of my favorite images of all time, the lynx. Takeaway here is to not be scared to use your camera. Cameras today are they're so much better than they ever were. I shot this image at 4000 ISO and on a high megapixel camera like the D850. In my opinion, it falls apart really quickly. But this managed to be incredible. The details there in the fur, it's not overly grainy or noisy. Not that would really matter at this distance, anyways. But I recovered it using Topaz denoise software. I got the video that covers how we did that. But use your camera. This was taken at 11:30 at night. The sun had already set, and I just trusted the camera to do its thing. Framing is pretty straightforward. I just got that front profile shot of this beautiful lynx. He let me pose. Or, I'm sorry, he posed and let me do a whole bunch of images of him just like this. So takeaway there is just trust your gear. Moving on to another eagle. This is what I like to call the money shot, right? So this is what, in your head, you see all the tattoos, those World War II era tattoos of these diving eagles and these screaming eagles. I just got lucky and I was there when this eagle was coming in for the kill. And I'm just showing you the importance of trying to capture an image that also resonates with someone and how they view that animal. So this diving eagle is also a big seller for me. Nothing special there. Big takeaway was, using the ISO to get just a little bit high enough to capture the motion without too much blur. A little bit of blur on the wingtips, but overall a pretty sharp image that tells a story of what's going on and the ferociousness of these creatures. Next two images are going to be really up-close portraits of this beautiful juvenile eagle. I'm sure you guys have seen them before. I absolutely love these images. What I want to talk about here is what separates these from just a normal shot, in my opinion, to a really outstanding shot, is waiting for the flash of that nictitating membrane. That membrane that covers their eyes and has all the veins and is that deep, dark navy blue. And it really just sets the image off. What it does is it makes the viewer look at it twice. Is he blind? Is something wrong with him? Oh no, he's just kind of blinking. And but what it does is it captures their attention just for that little bit extra and allows them to really sink in what you were trying to capture. So those are the two images right there. I'll post the next one right now. What I like about the second image of that is composition-wise, I was using, the golden spiral, or I don't know, I'll throw it up here because I get confused on what it's called. But just harnessing the power of a little bit of study and what is supposed to be appealing to the eye in this spiral is known to be pretty appealing. So just, executing that, and it worked out. All right, moving on from the juvenile birds. We have this beautiful grizzly bear out on the tundra. What I love about this brown bear is the back rim light. And this is an incredibly hard image for me to capture because the sun was so bright and it was backlit. And his face was so dark, his eyes, you only have that little bit of light right there on his snout. But I exposed for the highlights and then recovered the shadows in post. And just overall trying to give it that warm, late evening feeling, I guess. But what's really important there is just allowing that rim light to do whatever it's going to do. As long as you know that it's properly exposed, having a little bit of blown out highlights along the backside of this animal is not, in my opinion, doesn't take away from the image. If anything, it kind of adds to it. It kind of adds to the dramatic, warm setting sun. So just playing with light, exposing for the background, and then doing what you can to recover some of those dark areas in post, but not taking it too far. Moving on to another one of my favorites, this massive bull moose. Just big, trashy rack. He's got such an interesting rack. I've never seen anything really like what he's got going on. What what I like about this image so much is just kind of like with the eagle, the first image we talked about, is that really low angle and that background separation that you normally don't see in big moose photography. What else is really important is the catch light in his eye, and that's really hard to nail sometimes because of just how big some of these racks are. It acts like a giant umbrella that cuts out that catch light on their eye. But what I was trying to do here was just to get even light across the palms of his antlers. That's also something that's really hard to do because obviously they face towards the sky, and you'd have to be above him to get that even light. So just getting low and waiting for his natural behavior to bring his head down and kind of getting this cool angle with the catch light is what, in my opinion, sets off this photo so much more than just a normal moose shot that you see. And besides, it's just a giant bull moose, and what's not cool about that? Next, we have this beautiful loon. This goes along with the same concept with the eagle. It's just getting as absolutely low as possible to the water to create that subject separation, and that's what we got going on here. I think it was early morning sunrise, and it was just creating this crazy ambiance in the background. And by being low, that bokeh just kind of makes the lake and the background become one. And you get this beautiful, beautiful overall composition of a loon with this beautiful green background that kind of goes from the bottom of the frame all the way to where it fades off in the top. But just one more time, get low. Just showing you examples of that. Next, we're moving into this large pano that I just did. And what I want to do here is I want to talk about shooting different. Normally people would see a giant, beautiful scape like this, and they'd want to shoot it as wide as possible to capture the whole image, like at 14 millimeters, maybe even up to like 24. What I did is I think I shot it around 100 millimeters with a 70 to 200, and this is 10 frames that are just shot vertically and then stitched in post to give you this beautiful wide landscape. But what it does is it gives you a 110 millimeter focal length, but through an entire panoramic image. And I think, this displayed large, printed very large, it's so much more beautiful than any wide angle shot that you could take of this exact scene where it's long and narrow mountain ranges and beautiful vistas like this. And the last thing I want to talk about is the importance of the storytelling in all of your images. So I'm going to flash through a couple images, kind of trying to tell the story of Salmon and how it takes almost an entire year to just tell a 10-second story of a lifespan of salmon. So first up image we have right here, we have this beautiful salmon. What they're doing here is they're kind of congregating. They're getting ready at the base of the river that they're about to run up. And they get packed in there almost so dense that, you could walk across them almost. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to capture the clusterness of what's going on with these salmon, just how many there really are sitting. And I feel like these two images kind of tell that. You can kind of see just how many salmon there really are, and they're kind of chomping at the bits to start this run. So once the floodgates open, they start pushing upstream. And you can kind of capture the struggle in their eyes in this image right in front of you as they try to make it up some of these streams. And as they start making it up these streams, predation starts. And I wanted to cover predation from both the sea, the land, the air, capture all of it. So first up we have, you've seen it before, this beautiful grizzly bear catching them on a waterfall. So they're not safe in the water, and we have this bear, has already caught one sitting in probably 4 foot of water, munching on salmon. They're not safe from the land. Right here I have a beautiful baby cub. Brown bear cub who has ripped one out of the water and is munching them on. And then, they're also getting taken from the air. So right here I have this eagle that has just nailed one from the sky. It might have been a little bit old, but you can kind of see that they're not safe from the sea, the ground, or the air. And then this image right here that shows once they get to their spawning grounds, the crazy coloration changes that happen in some salmon. And then ultimately wrapping it up with, ashes to ashes. You have this final photo of, even if they do successfully spawn, what the remainder of their life is going to look like, zombified and just rotten there in the snow. And then the last image I have here that I want to share with you guys, or not really, I don't want to share it with you, I want to kind of give you the tip and why I took it, is this one. And the point of this is to remind you guys to sometimes turn the camera around and take 1 or 2 photos of yourself. And not to blow up on social media or rip a selfie or anything like that, but just to remember some of the moments of where you are. I very often forget to do this, and sometimes I wish I would have more photos of me out there doing it. One day someone might want to see that from you guys. When you guys blow up on National Geographic, like I know you guys will, they're going to want these old images of you guys. So that last tip is just to turn the camera around on yourself every once in a while and capture some of these great memories with you in the frame. But that's really all I have. I just, like I said, wanted to do something different, show you guys my thought process, print off a contact sheet, and just go over some images with you guys, talking about lighting and stuff. Hope you guys took at least one tip away, learned something, and if not, I had a great time hanging out with you guys anyways. So I guess I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.